Yeah, looks like I'm streaming. Great. Yeah, as usual, it took me a few minutes to get started. I always have issues or something that I forget about until the last minute, so I had to set up a second web browser, and that's what took me a minute to get set up here today. So anyway, hope you're all doing okay. If anyone's watching yet, I guess I should go ahead and put my live stream channel up here and let you all know that I'm streaming. No, I don't think I can use the @everyone in this channel, so I think, well, actually, in fact, most people are not in this channel. Looks like everyone's here, though, in general chat. Can I do that @everyone here? It appears I cannot. Okay. I'll just post a message in here in the welcome channel. That's twitch.tv/going right now. Join the live stream chat channel if you want to ask me questions while I'm streaming. Okay. Now I'll switch over here. Okay, hi everyone. Looks like 8 viewers. All right, we're getting started. So I've got a lot to do today, so I'm going to get started here in just a minute. Just need to kind of clean up my work area here a bit, so I have some room to look at my notes. So yeah, there's a lot going on potentially this week, so I want to make sure. I think most of what I talk about today will just be explaining what's going on this week and getting you started with it. So let me close the door. Okay. All right, guys, I'm streaming, so if you need something that's really important, you can talk to me, but otherwise try to take care of things yourself, okay? Okay, are you set up? Okay. I'll be out here if you need me. Okay, I'm back. Hello. Okay, so let me get my browser stuff ready here. I'm basically going to start by going through the things that I shared in Slack, in Canvas and Slack this morning, which are a lot of explanation, and so I think it hopefully makes sense if you read it, but I know that sometimes it's a lot, so it might be easier or better for me to explain it too. So I'm going to do both of those things and make sure that you're prepared for what's coming up this week, and make sure you know what you need to start doing today, hopefully. So yeah, let's just go. Let me switch my browser over and just get started. Okay, so oops, that's the wrong browser. I'm already off here. Oh, there we go. All right, so let me hide this. So this is Canvas. This is where we are. I will start by drawing your attention to the course schedule, which you can get to from this link here or this link over here on the side. And once you're in, you can see, of course, what we've already done this week. You accomplished a lot in week 1, and a lot of it was work on your own, and that's how, that's by design. Also, it was a lot of things that hopefully had a pretty smooth entry point for you. So that's something that many of you seem to be pretty successful with. I created a video for most of you. Some of you, I still haven't turned anything in week 1, so you still can and you should, but I didn't always make a video for people like that because I didn't have anything to talk about yet. But for almost everybody, I recorded a video explaining and responding to your work. So check that out if you haven't yet. It should be a response. It's probably a comment responding to your reflection assignment. I think in a couple cases I might have submitted it on one of the other assignments, but you should see something there. And if you don't, I might have forgotten to upload it. So let me know, and I still have it. Hopefully, I can give you that. But that was it. So week 1, it was really Hello World, which was getting your website set up, and then digital creativity, which is trying some things out. And I think a lot of you were really successful with that. So I think that was a good week overall. Week 2, now I've actually switched weeks 2 and 3. So if you look at the schedule earlier, I actually decided to swap the two big projects out. So what used to be week 3 is now week 2, and vice versa. So this is what we're going to be doing this week. We're going to be working on the web literacy projects and the digital culture module. And I'm going to spend today mainly talking about these two, mainly talking about web literacy and then helping you get started with it. It's pretty big, or at least the description of it is long, because there's a lot of things to try to explain about this. So this is the assignment description, and as you can see, quite long. Again, there's just a lot of pieces to it, and I want to make sure that I'm being clear about what things are what. In addition, today's notes, day 1 of week 2, also pretty long, and this is not quite as long, but these are things that are, more explanation, more things to help you get started and understand the context and the significance of this project. So again, there's a lot to get across, and I think part of it's because, or part of that complexity, just because there's so much at stake in this project. It stands to be a really valuable project, and I want to make sure that we're doing the things that we can to make it as valuable as possible, both for your learning and for our learning as a class, but also for the public, because what we're talking about here is fake news. We're talking about the ways in which the information that we see on the web is not always true, or it comes through different avenues, and those avenues sometimes aren't committed to truth in the way that we would hope them to be. And fake news is a general problem that is beyond the web, but it's something that the web and social media in particular have been particularly bad at propagating or helping people propagate. So that's what we're trying to do something about in this assignment. So there's a lot to it, and I want to kind of take some time to explain what's at stake in that. And I just got a message from someone that they didn't get their video. And since that's a DM, I won't say your name, but yes, I know I have it, so I remember doing it, so I will double check that afterwards. Let me make a note. Again, it's probably a response on it'll probably just show up as a comment on your last assignment, the weekly reflection assignment. So I would say look there if you can, but double check there, but I will also double check afterwards. So let's get started actually by talking about a couple things through the web literacy assignment, so you understand why you're in a group right now and what you're supposed to be doing with that group, because that's something that you may be wondering about. So let's do it. So this is the web literacy assignment, and this assignment has a long history. I do like to refer to the history of some of these assignments because you're not the first class to take DGST 101 and to try to solve some problems, but the problems that we're faced with and the solutions that we find sometimes do change. And there is a significant change that I've made for you all. I started changing this for the spring section as well, but for you all in particular, I've decided to make a pretty radical shift in terms of what we used to do with this. So let me just kind of go through the pieces of this assignment, and then hopefully that'll make sense. And if you have questions while I'm talking, you can either DM me in Slack or pose a question in the live stream channel or on the Twitch channel. So what you're going to be doing in a group is investigating a claim, and I've decided that for this I would like for you all to work on claims or ideas that circulate in social media that relate to COVID-19 coronavirus. I thought a lot about whether or not to do that. Usually I just give students a really long list of hoaxes or other things, and they choose what they're interested in. And there are a lot. There are lots of things out there, lots of examples of fake news claims that are worth investigating. I just felt like right now there's so much going on with COVID-19 and coronavirus. It affects all our lives. These claims that I found a few, and you may find others, have the potential to do real harm right now, because in some cases it's not just misinformation, it's disinformation that's meant to confuse and hurt people. And I feel like we need to do something about that. Somebody needs to do something about that. It might as well be us. Lots of people are doing things about it, but we stand to have some contribution here. So I felt like it was important. Now I hesitated. I wasn't sure if that was the right decision, because I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted with information about COVID-19 coronavirus stuff. It's just constant, and most of the news is bad, and it's emotionally very taxing. And I'm sure you experience that differently, and maybe even more than I have. Maybe you've been affected by the pandemic in more direct ways. So, that's where I was hesitant. I was thinking maybe this class should be a break from that kind of thing. But I feel, ultimately I was convinced by the fact that it is the reality that we're faced with on the web. If we look at the information landscape of the web right now, I mean, that's what it's talking about, that's what it is. And I wanted to make this project as current as possible. And I feel like this is what we need to do to kind of recognize the moment we're in. So, hopefully that's okay with you. I do want your input on these ideas, of course, but this is what we're going with unless there's a real, I guess, mutiny or protest. If one group decides you need to do something different, then we can certainly talk about it. But this is what I'd like for us to do, because ultimately we're going to be writing articles, you're going to be writing articles, and then we're going to try to publish these together as an ebook. This is going to be using a platform called Manifold. I'll show you that later, and I'll mostly deal with the mechanics of that. So that's not something you necessarily need to know about, but think about this being written to a public audience like a Scopes article, if you're familiar with, or not Scopes, Snopes, like Snopes.com or other factcheck.org. There's other websites that are already out there that do a good job of fact checking. We're essentially doing our own version of that with a little bit of a Wikipedia style analysis built into it as well. So yeah, that's what we're doing basically. So let me go through the mechanics of it, and then hopefully this will start to gradually make sense. So first of all, as a group, you're going to need to decide which claim you want to focus on. And I've listed a few here. I have found all of these in the real world of the web. There are lots of other ones that you may have heard as well. And generally, this kind of research, these kinds of articles go well if it is a real claim that people are actually making somewhere online. So in other words, it's a genuine fake news item. And it's also something that is either a good article is also one that actually takes some explanation, that isn't just obviously false or just obviously true. So you have to actually get into some of the nuances of it a little bit. Some of these things, as you look through these, the bulleted list here, may just seem completely ridiculous to you, but there is somebody believes this. There is someone who believes at least one of each of these claims. And I think what we need to do when we do this kind of work is try to understand why that is. Like, where is this person coming from that leads them to believe these things? Is this part of a larger worldview that rejects claims from science, for example? That's something that I think bears examination and explanation, and that's what we're trying to do here. Again, there might be other claims that are out there. As I mentioned, Snopes.com, FactCheck.org, there's a bunch of others. Do a great job of debunking things. So we don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel. If another website has already done a really good job thoroughly debunking and investigating one of these claims, maybe that's not the best choice for us. Maybe we should find an article, or maybe you as a group should find an article that does take a little bit of work that isn't already answered out there. That said, if people have already answered it, we can build on what they've done, but I want to make sure there's room to build, basically. I think these are all pretty good choices right here. I think there's lots of other ones, but if you're not sure about a claim, certainly let me know so I can give you some feedback on it. So you are in a group. You're in a Slack channel, group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and you can find your Slack channels if you click on the left side of your Slack client, either on the desktop or the mobile, and you should see a group that you're in. It's group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. In that group, I've grouped you into groups of 3 or 4, and I used the input from your doodle poll to put you into those groups. Some of you didn't complete the poll, so I wasn't able to factor in your scheduling preferences, but usually if there's 4 of you in a group, there's at least 3 of you who indicated you'd be available at roughly the same time. And I have those times listed, so I'll probably just go into the channel and suggest, share with those words just to suggest that might be a good time for you all to converse. I think real-time conversation will be valuable for this, at least at this stage today, if you can, to decide what claim you want to investigate. I don't want multiple groups doing the same claim, so if someone's already chosen the one that you are excited about working on, you might have to go to choice number 2. So there's some incentive to try to get your request in today if possible. So talk about it, and I see a few of you already are in your Slack channels looking at different ideas. So if you don't care, if you don't feel particularly strongly about it, that's okay too, but you do need to pick something by today if at all possible. So, hi. Also, I wanted to mention, like I said, 2 or 3 of you in each group have already expressed that you will be available at certain times, and they line up. But in some cases, a third or fourth person may not be available during that time because either they didn't tell me, or they actually said they wouldn't be available, or they said something else. So this is an online class. It's not meant to be a real-time class. It's not meant to be synchronous like your fall spring courses where we switch to remote teaching. This isn't remote teaching. This is online teaching. And that means that some people will be participating in this class asynchronously, which means whenever they can fit it in. And that's fine. That's how these things go. So let me encourage you in your groups to be patient with each other. Many of you will be able to respond quickly, but some of you might not be in a group. So if you find that you are trying to come to a consensus today, and there's a third or fourth person who hasn't showed up at all yet, it's okay to go ahead and make your request without them. And also, be patient with that person. They may have very legitimate reasons why they can't be online while you are, and try to be understanding towards each other, basically, in terms of how those conversations go. So those of you who are participating asynchronously, if you can check in today and just briefly share your thoughts, if you have a strong feeling about which claim, you can certainly do that. My hope, though, is that most of you won't feel particularly compelled to investigate a specific claim. That I think that most of these are pretty even as far as their viability and their availability for researching something. So I think they're all pretty good. So I don't think you'll be missing out if you have to I don't think you'll get stuck with a claim that's a bad claim, if that makes sense. So, chime in if you can. And that's the nice thing about Slack, is it supports both synchronous and asynchronous communication really well. That's why I use it instead of like the Canvas discussion boards. So try to figure out what you can. Try to get in there and take a look. If you want to do a little bit of looking around about these claims before you commit to one, that's okay. But try to commit soon. And also, I have a couple of pointers about how to do that investigation. So you might not want to jump onto Google just yet. So that's the idea. You're going to pick an article. You're going to pick one of these claims, write an article explaining or debunking it. And that's going to take some work. So most of what we'll do this week, we'll be talking about that work. Okay, so I see a few others discussing things, which is great. Let's talk a bit about how to actually. Wait, I feel like this is the wrong set of bullet points. I had to do a lot of. Yeah, this paragraph is in the wrong section. Sorry, that should actually be down here, and it is. So this, I don't know, it got pasted twice, I think. So yeah, I will. Boy, okay, let me just edit this out of this page right here, because that's in the wrong place, and it could be a little confusing. So, because these are the guidelines for reflecting. So, nope, not that much. So step 1, pick a claim. Step 2, investigate the claim. And here are some ideas about how to do that. Great, okay, I think that's correct now. So just to be clear, I guess, just in case it's not clear yet, this is an article that you are writing collaboratively. So there will be 3 or 4 of you working together on this Google Doc. I've shared links to your Google Docs in your Slack channels. But this is a group project at this point. There is another digital culture project also going on this week, which has a slightly different structure, but for this one, you are working together. You are all responsible for the same article in your group. Okay, so there's a structure to the documents that guides, hopefully, the kind of research that you need to do to thoroughly answer your claims. And let me actually, probably I should go ahead and take a look at that to show you what that looks like. These documents that I've set up in Google are not publicly editable. Like, I haven't shared an edit link that anyone can click on and edit. These are links that I've shared. I've set it up differently so that you have to actually request access. Like, I've done that intentionally, so you have to request access to them. So please do, and I will let you in as soon as I can. And then I think once I've let one person in, then that second person will also you'll be able to let in your teammates as well. But I'll try to stay on top of those. I see the notifications pop up on my phone whenever you request permission, so hopefully I can reply to those quickly as it's needed. Okay, so this is a template, and this is both this part of this discussion here. I'm going to be talking about the like the template, like the article you're going to write, but also the kinds of questions you're going to need to investigate and answer in order to put the content here. So these are going to be very straightforwardly set up, hopefully, as posing the question and then answering the question. And this is a placeholder question: is the Earth flat? That's not the question you're investigating. You'll be doing one of these that are from the list or something else you select. So, does 5G cause coronavirus? Or is Bill Gates? Did Bill Gates create the coronavirus so that he could create a vaccine that would put microchips in everyone? That's another one. So that's your claim is going to be expressed here as a question. So I've stated them here as facts, but here you should write it as a question, and then the answer should be the answer to that. This can hopefully be yes or no. Like, we want this answer to be as definitive as possible. I believe all of these questions here should be answerable with a yes or no, but you might find out that it's actually more complicated than that. That does sometimes happen. If it does, then you might be able to say, you might have to say probably not, or probably, or you might have to say yes, but it's complicated, or something along those lines. But try to avoid those middle ground answers, those equivocations if possible, because we want to be as clear as possible. We want to be, does 5G cause coronavirus? No. And if that's all the reader wants to know, they really don't have to go farther. Like, that's really the biggest thing we want to make sure that someone knows after they've read our article. So let's put it right at the top. Right, so this is using the inverted pyramid idea for journalistic writing. We want to put the biggest thing in the front and center, the first lines of this article, and so that's what we're doing here. So here, just make sure it's right, but replace it with that. Anything you see in brackets, by the way, that's going to be something that you replace. Like, these are my instructions, so you would delete this and then write your actual explanation of how you know that the Earth is not flat. And so that's that's hopefully, as you write, basically, you should delete these instructions. Okay, so what we want to find out is, where did this claim come from? You may be able to find, in some cases, a single person who originated these claims, and that's what I want to find out. That's what I'd like to hear. Did this start with a certain person? If so, when did they first make this claim? And if you can figure out why did they make this claim? That's something that could take some investigation. Not research, really. I mean, research to me means like you're looking at scholarship or things that other people have written, but I mean actual investigation, like going to that person's Twitter page and figuring out what their deal is, that kind of thing. That's almost more like a journalistic type of investigation that you'll be doing here for this. That can be a little icky sometimes, unfortunately. I mean, in just finding these topics, it was kind of depressing, but I'll show you ways to protect your browser and your environment as you get started with that. So, it'll be okay. But basically, find out who first made it. The second one is find out how common is this claim. So somebody made this claim, it exists, but did it go anywhere? Did people repeat it? If they did, then when and why? And was there a particular moment where a particularly influential person maybe shared it on Twitter and then it got bigger because of that? So try to trace that history if you can. Try to figure out key moments in this claim's life cycle, so to speak. Like, where was it born, I guess? At what point did it blow up? Did it fade out after some time or whatever? So these are things that you could conceivably construct a timeline for. So you might be able to say on, in April 15th, somebody tweeted this and then it got retweeted 38 times. But then on April 28th, somebody else tweeted the same thing and it got retweeted 10,000 times. Those would be interesting moments. So you should document those and write those as a list here. You might also find it useful, depending on the claim, but if you find it interesting, Google Trends can be a really cool way to understand how an idea has emerged and proliferated. So this is pretty cool. You can find out what the world is searching for. So this is basically going into Google and asking, okay, what are people searching for? So, I mean, I found this one pretty interesting recently. So, so how to install a bidet, so that's one way you can, if you run out of toilet paper. This is something that people were searching for a lot in March, but it kind of faded out after a while, I guess. So you might track this Google trend along the scarcity of toilet paper, right? That might be as people were starting to panic about toilet paper. Maybe that's why they started searching for this, but then as that panic subsided or people found other solutions, they stopped searching for how to install a bidet. So if you are interested in, if you find a similar kind of trend graph that has a suggestive spike like this that you think you can interpret, then that would be great. So I would recommend download it as not a CSV. How do we do this? No, I don't want to do that. There's some way you can get an image of this. I might have to look at how you do this. Oh, maybe this. Oh, okay, great. So you can embed it. This would be cool. So this would probably, I don't know if this will work in a Google Doc, but we'll figure it out. The point is, there's some information here. Worst case scenario, you could always just screenshot this and then upload it into your document. But anyway, that's Google Trends. I just wanted to show you how that can be a way to find out how a claim spread. If you know the website knowyourmeme.com, they do this with memes, and it's pretty interesting and a good way to understand a meme. So for this prevalence section especially, I would expect a lot of screenshots. So if you find someone has tweeted this claim, take a screenshot of that tweet. You can link to it, but the thing about tweets, of course, they can be deleted. So taking a screenshot preserves that more reliably. So that's what I'd recommend there. Okay, so then the analysis section, this is more essay-like. I want you to try to explain what do you think is going on with this claim. Why did it proliferate? Why did somebody make it to begin with? Is it consistent with some other kind of conspiracy thinking? Is it part of some other scheme of some sort? Whatever you can explain about the history or the proliferation of this claim to understand, like, why is this claim particularly important to either validate or debunk? I mean, what's going on here? Why this claim? It's kind of your so what section, if you're used to that cliche from essay writing. Okay, then finally, cite your sources here. Use Mla Style Citations, if you don't mind, just to be consistent. Okay, so there's a link to Mla Style if you're not sure how to do that. This is not the most important part of the article, so if you have issues with Mla Style, then let me know. I can help. Okay, so this is I've given you now the structure of the article that you're going to be writing together, and I've talked a little bit about how the investigation will hopefully go in order to find some answers to this. So going back here to the article, to the assignment rather, excuse me, this is step 2. Find out if the claim is true or not, and if not, explain what's going on there. Then this is writing the article is obviously part of research and investigation, but it's also the results of it. I would like for you to try to think about how an encyclopedia article is written, particularly Wikipedia. I'm sure that's something you're familiar with reading. Wikipedia actually has pretty thorough guidelines explaining how to write a Wikipedia article, and try to follow that as closely as possible. We'll talk more about this like Thursday or Friday maybe, but that's the idea. We want to write this as neutrally as possible. With these articles, you're not trying to make an argument, except in the sense that you're trying to say this is true, and this is why I know this is true. You notice I just caught myself. We don't want to say I think this is true, or in my opinion 5G doesn't cause coronavirus. We want to be more confident in that. We want to be more assertive and more definitive than that. So it's not here's what we think, it's here's what is true, here's what is false, and that's it. So Wikipedia's style guide is really meant to help you write that way when you write a Wikipedia article or when you contribute to a Wikipedia article. So if you'll notice, you never see first person, I think, blah, 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 on a Wikipedia article, and that's by design. If someone happens to write that way, someone else will edit it out on a Wikipedia article. So I hope for the same kind of neutrality in your writing, and that can be tricky. It's not something that you may be used to writing that style, but hopefully by working together as a group, you'll be able to refine the voice for your article to make it as neutral and essentially as the writing itself should be relatively bland, right? I mean, you want to be informative, not interesting necessarily. So yeah, I mean, that takes some work, and that's why it's a group project. All right. So finally, then, what you're individually responsible for, you should write a reflection, and I've got some suggestions here for what to think about as you reflect on your own work, and then that's what you submit here. It is a group project, so in the reflection, you should talk about what you individually contributed to the article. Don't worry so much about reporting what everyone else did. I mean, I see everything, so I know what everyone else does. Really think about it in terms of what you were responsible for and what you actually did. If somebody hasn't done their part yet, just again, be patient with each other and understand that some people may be adding parts to your article even after this week if they are participating in this class asynchronously. We just have to be patient with each other. Okay, so that's a lot of actually about the structure of the assignment. So hopefully, me talking that much, hopefully that makes sense and you're able to follow that. If you have questions, this would be a good time to pose some of those. Let's see. Oh, yep, some more people need access to their files. So let me get in on and do these. Oh yeah, so it looks like, I have to do like 3 clicks for each one of them. It used to be able to just be like yes, 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 but now I have to be like give access, switch access to editor, then send. So these Gmail addresses that are requesting access, by the way, aren't all totally clear that they are, like some of them is just literally your name, so I know who you are, but some of these I don't know who you are, so I hope I'm giving the right person access. And I think that was everybody who's requested access just now, but once you're in, hopefully you can let other people in. But yeah, keep sending those if you can't get into them. Oh, just got another one. I just got 2 more. Great. Yeah, keep it coming if you need access. And I'm not double checking to make sure you are requesting access to the right document. I'm just letting everybody into whichever documents that they are requesting. So that's all good. Okay, I think that's everybody in right now, but I'll keep checking that and letting people in as I need to. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about I want to add 2 kind of pieces to your toolkit here in terms of what you should be doing and working toward. So let's look over at the notes for today. Well, actually, let's go here. So a lot of this is kind of general, not general, but like explaining the motivation behind this assignment. I'm not going to just sit here and read all this. I welcome you to read it, but I wrote this to try to explain why this is an important thing for us to be doing right now, and also hopefully you'll see why this is a digital problem that we're facing here, a fake news problem. A lot of it has to do with the ease of sharing information, and then the way that we have come to think of social media as information platforms when they're really not, and they're just not designed to be. We do share information through them. Social media platforms are designed to be attention machines. Like they're designed to keep our attention on them. And people have found that information is one way to get people stuck to your platform and to your brand through social media. And that's unfortunate because the design of social media encourages us to keep looking, keep refreshing, and it keeps us stuck on that feed. So we end up in these situations where we're not actually reading the information, we're not reading the article. As I mentioned here, there's this famous study that 59% of articles shared on Facebook have not been read. And I bet it's higher than that. I mean, that's something that I don't usually read articles that people share on Facebook. In fact, I've actually done things on my Facebook feed so I don't see articles. But that's something where, yeah, I mean, we don't actually share information here. We try to share which tribe we're in or what alignment we have, and we think of this more as information has become a kind of worldview around community. I don't know if you, what is it called? I should have looked this up ahead of time. There's a really good documentary on Netflix about people who believe the Earth is flat, and it's a really interesting documentary, and it's pretty popular, so maybe you've seen it. What I liked about it was that it helped us understand where the flat Earth movement comes from. So it's good just informationally, but it also, I think, really painted a good picture of the people involved in this movement. And I think it was ultimately a fairly sympathetic view, not to give credence to their idea that the Earth is flat, but to help understand them as people. And I think it's all too easy, and I kind of thought this going into the documentary, that it would be about just sort of making fun of idiots, like sort of laughing at these dumb people. And certainly I've seen documentaries that take that approach, but I thought the Flat Earth documentary did a good job of, I mean, yeah, in some cases it was definitely the editing or other things was sort of mocking the people, but I think I came away from that documentary really understanding why someone would believe the Earth is flat. It's not because the science is compelling, but because they have a sense of community, and these are people who really need that and are committed to that sense of belonging to that group. And that's what's more compelling than any ideas about science. So I think that's the example of the kind of thing that I think happens in social media, and with all the feeds we pay attention to, we end up identifying ourselves as part of a community, and we are committed to that community so much that we filter out things that don't consist with the values of that community, or that don't confirm what we believe that makes us part of that community of belief. So it's basically it's more complicated than just explaining the facts, and that is going to convince somebody. But I think we should at least start with that. We should at least start with facts, and that's what this assignment is about, trying to figure out. So anyway, you can read all this here if you'd like. Well, please do, because this is about that. There's some links here. The thing I wanted to get into is a little bit practical. There's a couple of practical things, like pieces of your toolkit that I think would be useful today, like right now. You're thinking about a couple of claims here, so you might have started to Google or search for these. Before you do that, though, I do recommend taking a few steps to protect your browser a little bit, your web browser, which is the tool you're using to access the web. I'm using Firefox right now. You may use Chrome or Safari or Microsoft's, what do they call it now, Edge or Explorer, I forget, but Microsoft's Explorer / Edge or whatever it is. Browsers reveal a lot of information about you when you browse on the web, and one of the things they do is they leave a trace of all the different sites you visited, and that trace is what advertisers use to target messages to you. And you may find yourself, after viewing some of the websites that these search terms will lead you to, you may find yourself exposed to advertising based on that history. In other words, the Google ad thing, the thing in Google that decides who you are, might start thinking you're really interested in this stuff and start sending you ads for it. And that could be stressful. So a couple things I recommend. First of all, let's be clear about what Google knows about you. They changed the URL for this, I think, but let me see if I can find it. There is a place where you can find out Google's idea of what it thinks you're interested in, and you have to be logged into your Google accounts. This might be it. Yeah, this is it. So it's adsettings.google.com, I think. But this is, I'm just showing you this because I don't mind, but this is telling you the things that Google thinks I'm interested in, or that it thinks it knows about me. Some of these things I've literally told it, but many of these things I have not. It has just kind of casually inferred these interests based on my browsing history. And I have, yeah, some of these I totally get. Home Improvement, yeah, I watch This Old House all the time. But like TNT, is that like literally what is that? Like the TV station, or like the explosive? I don't have any feelings about either of those. I don't know why that would show up as one of my strong preferences. So, and some of these things are true, like demographic information. Yes, I am married. I guess I don't really work in the technology industry, but I, kind of do. I don't know, maybe. I am in Virginia. So, some of these things are true, but you can actually disable or edit these if you don't like, if something's actually not correct. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this one because it doesn't make any sense. Okay. So that's off. And so, yeah, what is triple byte? I don't know what that is either, so I'm turning that off. So you can do this manually, but my point was just showing you that these things are almost all things that were just casually inferred based on stuff I watch on YouTube or things I search for. A lot of these don't make sense actually for that, but that's basically how it goes. It's like it's a computer, it's just guessing. So we want to keep it from guessing based on the kind of research you're about to be doing, possibly. So one thing that I recommend is not to use Google as your search engine. So DuckDuckGo is a secure search engine that doesn't track you online. I mean, that's their claim anyway, and I use this as my default browser. It most of the time works as well as Google, and all the search operators that I'll show you later are also available in DuckDuckGo. It sometimes doesn't find the answer you need right away, and so it is possible to search Google through DuckDuckGo. It actually is a proxy for Bing, I think, but that all happens in the background without actually attaching anything from you, like as you do the search. So DuckDuckGo is a safer search engine to use than Google, so I recommend using this as one step to keep yourself a little bit more private. Another thing is possibly to add an ad blocker. I use this one. This is called uBlock Origin. You can see the little shield icon up there in the top right. I recommend it. There's several other ad blockers, but uBlock Origin I think works better, and it's more open. So check this out. You can get it for different browsers, but it's another way to start protecting you because it does block ads, but it also blocks some trackers, which are those little scripts or codes that follow you around the web. So it doesn't do all of them, but it does some, and it also just makes your browsing less annoying, honestly, to have uBlock Origin. So there's another tool I don't have installed here called Privacy Badger, which blocks trackers and cookies and ads. But if you don't want to deal with adding a bunch of extensions, there's something else you can do to find out, something else you can do to secure your browsing. I'm going to show you what I've started doing recently. So if you go to this tool here, panopticlick.eff.org, this is a tool that assesses your current browser environment and gives you a report about how private you currently are. How well protected are you currently from tracking? So let's find out. So this is Firefox, and I haven't done anything particularly special with the settings on this copy of Firefox. All I've done is I've added uBlock Origin, I think. So let's take a minute, see how this turns out to do. Yep, okay, so it is blocking tracking ads. I think that's something that Firefox does automatically. And am I blocking acceptable ads? Yes. Am I honoring third parties? No, but I don't worry about that. And my fingerprint, does my browser have a unique fingerprint? Yes, it does. That unique fingerprint means that I am still traceable, like I am still trackable. For someone to trace me using a browser fingerprint would be like if they would have to know that they were looking for me, first of all. So it's a little bit more invasive kind of tracking than like ad tracking, but it's still something you can defend against. But this is okay. I mean, I think this is a pretty decent setup right here. These check boxes show me that I'm doing pretty okay right now. Now, with all these on, you still would want to do the searching and the research for this in a private window. Let's see, am I sharing my private window? I'm not. But hopefully, hopefully you've seen private windows, or you know how they work, incognito mode in Chrome or private window in Firefox. So there's actually another browser that I found out about kind of recently that I wanted to show you that does a lot of this stuff automatically. And where is it? Oh, this is it. Yeah. This is a browser called Brave, and I'm just Googling to show you how to get to it because I don't remember. So it looks like it's brave.com. I don't know why it's called brave.com. I mean, it's kind of a silly name. I don't really understand their business model, but they are a browser built totally around this idea of security. So it already, without installing anything else, it basically comes with an equivalent of uBlock Origin already in it. Sorry, I'm making it smaller so I can actually see it. And it does a great job of blocking things. It also has, let's see, if I click on that, can you see what I'm clicking on? I'm not sure what Twitch is picking up if I click on that window. No, you can't see that. Okay. Let me just switch my browser mode briefly. Nope. No. Sorry, I have too many things here. I need to make a new scene. One second here. I'm just doing a little OBS editing here on the fly. Here I am. And let me add. Let me try this. This might work. Hey, yeah, it worked. Okay, good. So you can see everything, and there's kind of, you're getting the Hall of Mirrors thing because you're also seeing OBS. But what I wanted to show you was the, I wanted to show you Brave and show you how you can use it to be even more secure. So you can click on this thing and then you can make a new private window, which is much like the Firefox private window, and it's fairly private, I assume. You can also take it a step even further. You can open what's called a new private window with Tor. So Tor is a sort of layer on top of the internet that lets you route your traffic through anonymous IP addresses. So it makes you much more private. Every computer is identified as an IP address, and so if someone was trying to track me specifically, if they knew my IP address, or even if they were able to correlate my browser fingerprint with my IP address, then they would be able to follow me through the web, even if I have all these trackers on. Tor blocks that particular kind of thing. So this is something now that I have Tor in here. I am taking some steps against fingerprinting, and also I'm anonymizing my browsing to a much greater extent than is normally the case. So this is kind of the best case scenario, and you could probably take further steps like with a VPN, but this is, I think, pretty good, a pretty reasonable thing to try. And this is, again, the Brave browser, brave.com. You can get it for different platforms, but it's worth a try. I think it's something that, I so far have not noticed anything shifting in my ad preferences based on the research I've done so far on these topics. So it seems to be a safe way to do it. Yeah, so hopefully that works. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions about Brave or different browser settings, let me know. But I definitely recommend using something other than Safari or Microsoft, whatever their product is called now, just because it's good to know what options, like what's out there. And there's a lot out there that's better. And or even if you're committed to using Safari, take some steps to understand how to secure your browsing experience within Safari. Okay, so I'm getting kind of long here on today's stream, so I do want to wrap it up soon. So let me, I will, remind you if you have questions to go ahead and throw them out here. But I wanted to show you one more piece of your toolkit that I think will be useful today. This whole project originated actually from a lecture that this guy did. His name is Mike Caulfield, and he came to UMW to talk about a research project he was working on then in 2017 about web literacy, and the result of that project was this textbook, which is Web Literacy for Student Fact Checkers, people like you. So this is what I'd like you to look at. It's an open access textbook. You just click it and you're in. Let me show you how it's organized. You've got an introduction here, then you've got the first section, which is kind of an extended introduction, and then it starts explaining the first of what he calls 4 moves. These are 4 research moves, investigative moves, things you do. And so I would like for you to take a look at, do this today if possible, take a look at this first opening section, which is just preamble, and then this introduction, and then this chapter 2, basically. So this is looking for previous work. So the 4 moves, these are the 4 things you do intellectually to try to decide if something is true or not. You first of all check for previous work, so find out if someone has already fact-checked it. If not, then you go on to step 2, which is go upstream to get to the source. So this is where we're looking for the origin of the claim. And then once we find that origin, then we need to read laterally to find out what do we need to know about this origin in order to assess its possible truth value. And then if none of those things work, circle back. So go back again, start looking for previous work, go upstream, read laterally, and kind of repeat that process until you've got a satisfactory answer. And that's really it in a nutshell. And this is what people do when they work for PolitiFact or FactCheck.org or Snopes. This is what they do. So I think Mike Caulfield has done a great job of laying it out for us, explaining how we can do it too. And that's what we're after. And as you can see, each of these sections is named after those. Within each of these sections, there are some pretty sophisticated things you will learn about how to do web searching and how to investigate ownership for a domain. There's several exercises in here. I guess you can do them if you'd like, but we'll try to do them, or I'll try to walk you through the exercises on the stream tomorrow. But for today, if possible, read these first 6 sections. These are really just a page each. So, they're not super long. Okay, so I think I need to wrap it up soon. The other thing I wanted to mention has to do with digital culture. I haven't mentioned that at all yet, but that is another aspect of the work this week. So if you remember last week, we looked at digital creativity, and I gave you a kind of limited set of options to choose from. This week, I would like for you to choose a module in the culture list I would like for each member of the group to work on the same module, but the work you do for that module can be individual. In some cases, these might be worth coordinating a bit, but in any case, you're welcome to do them just on your own. There's a lot of these, so I'm going to give you the choice to choose any of them, but everyone in the group should decide together, do we want to work on Internet of Things or YouTubing or selfies or Wikipedia, and I'll just let you choose. Again, try to choose today so you can start working on it, but it'll have the same structure of the digital creativity module where you do a preliminary post, you work on it for a while, do a concluding post, and then share a video with what you found out while you worked on it. Some of these are more informational kind of things where you learn about something and then explain what you learned. Some of these do have a product where you try something out and then talk about how that went. For example, the Wikipedia thing, I'm not going to go through each of these because there's a lot of them, but the Wikipedia one, something that sometimes people do is to try to actually edit Wikipedia. Try to improve an article. Last semester I had a group that they all tried to vandalize articles, and I don't recommend that. That violates the terms of service of Wikipedia, but they did that, and then they talked about their various success rate with that, different methods for adding misinformation to Wikipedia. Again, I don't endorse that, but that's what they did. A couple years ago, a group did that, and what they found is if they edited something that was wrong but sounded plausible, it would stay there for indefinitely. So for quite a while, I was listed as the president of UMW for several months, and eventually I reverted it to the correct answer. But it was, the random Wikipedia editors out there, they don't know if this is true or not, so they just assume it's true. But if you write the word poop across the title of an article, then that's going to be picked up, and people are going to block that very quickly, and then I'll probably ban your account. So Becca just asked a question. Yes, they are with your group. In other words, the group will be working on the same digital culture module. The web literacy assignment, though, is very coordinated, and you all are working on one article. For the digital culture thing, that can be much more individualized. It just, I want you all working on the same kind of thing so you can support each other, kind of like you did with digital creativity, where you were in groups, but it was kind of informal for the work you did there. So kind of two different ways of interacting, but in the same channel on two different projects. Okay, so let me just kind of recap here a bit, and if you're still, hopefully that answered your question, Becca, but if you'd like to ask again, or I can try to clarify, but let me just recap what we're doing here today. The web literacy project is the big thing this week, and it's a fact-checking investigation. That's something that you should start working on today with your group. Your first step is to decide which claim you're going to be investigating, and then start investigating it. And there's a lot of information here in the notes for today and in the assignment page for web literacy, explaining how to get started with that and the kinds of things to keep in mind as you work through it. I talked a little bit about protecting your browsing here. If you'd like to watch the lecture, of course you can. It's an hour long, so it's up to you. But it is, I think, sometimes helpful to see someone explain something and walk through it as opposed to reading them talking about it. So I think it's good to have both of those, and so that's there. Just a note, he did update his terminology a little bit between when he gave that lecture and when he wrote the textbook. So you'll notice a couple of small differences there. Also, if you keep an eye out, you might see me. I was in the audience. So that's about it. There's a lot here, so please let me know if you have questions. I know I'm throwing a lot at you today, but try to get started and pick a group, pick a topic, and I will continue to monitor the requests to edit the articles, but send those in. Hopefully I can get to them as quickly as possible. Okay, kind of a long one today, but I think I'm done. So I'm going to shut this off, but I'll be online for the rest of the day. So if you have questions or comments or thoughts, let me know. Otherwise, start working on your group. And remember what I said about the group. Some people may not be able to contribute today, and it's not their fault. Like, don't blame them or get frustrated if you're not hearing from someone. There may be a very good reason. So be patient with each other. If you haven't heard from everybody by midnight tonight and you just want to go ahead with your request, go ahead and do that. Don't wait for people, basically. Okay, so hopefully I'll hear from you, but again, I'll be online in Slack with various things, so that should be great. All right, well, have a good day. Bye.